The night air was thick with the scent of rain and earth as storm clouds gathered over the sleepy town of Maplewood. The streets, usually alive with the chatter of neighbors and children's laughter, were eerily silent beneath the flickering street lamps. Inside the sprawling Whitman estate on Elm Street, a terrible secret was about to shatter the calm. Emma and Claire Whitman were identical twins, indistinguishable to anyone who wasn't intimately familiar with their subtle differences. Growing up, they were inseparable, two halves of the same whole. But on this fateful October evening, their world began to unravel in ways no one could have predicted. At precisely 9:15 p.m., a chilling scream pierced the quiet. Sarah Blake, a family friend who had grown close to the Whitmans over the years, had been found in her home, her life extinguished by strangulation. The police were called immediately, their sirens slicing through the night as officers rushed to the scene. Detective Mark Reynolds was the first to arrive, his experienced eyes scanning the room. Sarah lay on the living room floor, her face pale and lifeless, eyes wide open in silent shock. The weapon, a silk scarf, was still wrapped tightly around her neck, its delicate fabric stained with blood. The room bore the signs of a struggle: overturned furniture, broken glass, and a shattered picture frame. Reynolds' mind raced as he took in every detail. The victim was known to be gentle and kind-hearted, with no enemies, at least none anyone had ever heard of. So, why had someone wanted her dead? The investigation moved quickly. Forensics dusted for fingerprints, cataloged evidence, and collected samples. Then came the discovery that would change everything. Emma Whitman's fingerprints were found on the scarf. Traces of her blood were discovered on Sarah's torn blouse. Surveillance footage showed a figure matching Emma's description near the crime scene that night. Most damning of all, witnesses reported seeing Emma and Sarah arguing earlier in the evening. The police brought Emma in for questioning. Her blue eyes, usually bright and warm, were clouded with confusion and fear. "I didn't do this," she said, voice trembling. "I don't even know why Sarah would hate me." Her twin, Claire, sat in the waiting room, holding her breath, desperately hoping for the truth to come out. She believed Emma was innocent. There was no way her sister could have committed such a brutal act. But the evidence was overwhelming. Emma was taken into custody that night, charged with first-degree murder. As Emma was led away in handcuffs, the community was divided. Some whispered that jealousy between the twins had turned deadly. Others refused to believe Emma was capable of such violence. The night that had begun like any other ended with shattered families and broken trust. The courthouse in Maplewood was a grand building, its towering columns and marble steps symbolizing justice and order. But inside its walls, the battle over truth and lies would tear a family apart. Emma Whitman's trial began on a cold morning 3 months after her arrest. The air was thick with anticipation as reporters, locals, and curious onlookers packed the courtroom. The twins' faces were everywhere, on newspapers, on television, on social media feeds, each photo capturing the same delicate features, the same haunting blue eyes. Emma sat quietly at the defendant's table, her hands trembling slightly, her mind swirling with disbelief. Across from her, Claire watched with a mixture of pain and determination. She was convinced of her sister's innocence, but she also felt powerless. The evidence was overwhelming, and the prosecution was relentless. The prosecutor, a sharp and confident woman named Rachel Green, opened the case with a powerful statement. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she said, her voice steady and commanding, "we are here because a young woman lost her life in a brutal act of violence. The evidence will show that Emma Whitman, fueled by jealousy and rage, strangled Sarah Blake in cold blood. We will prove beyond any doubt that Emma is guilty of first-degree murder." The courtroom fell silent, the weight of her words hanging, heavy in the air. The prosecution's case was built on 3 main pillars: physical evidence, eyewitness testimony, and motive. First, the forensic experts took the stand. They detailed the fingerprints on the silk scarf, the blood traces on Sarah's blouse, and the fibers matching Emma's clothing found at the scene. Each piece seemed to tighten the noose around Emma's neck. Next came the witnesses. Neighbors testified hearing heated arguments coming from Sarah's house that night. One even claimed to see a woman matching Emma's description leaving the property shortly after the estimated time of death. Finally, the prosecution painted a picture of a jealous sister. They revealed that Emma had been increasingly resentful of Sarah's close relationship with Claire, alleging that Emma felt left out and betrayed. Emma's defense attorney, James Porter, was a seasoned lawyer known for his sharp mind and passionate pleas. When it was his turn, he stood and addressed the jury directly. "My clients are not guilty until proven otherwise," he began. "Yes, the evidence seems strong, but evidence can be misleading. My client maintains her innocence, and there are questions about the investigation that remain unanswered." James pointed to inconsistencies in the timeline, gaps in witness statements, and the lack of direct motive. He called Claire to the stand. Claire's testimony was emotional and raw. She spoke of her bond with Emma, their shared childhood, and the impossibility of her sister committing such a violent act. "I know Emma," Claire said, her voice shaking. "She would never hurt anyone, let alone Sarah. Something is wrong here. I believe the truth will come out." Despite her heartfelt words, the jury seemed torn. The twins' identical appearances only added to the confusion. Was the evidence truly pointing to the right sister? As the trial progressed, whispers of doubt began to surface. Some jurors wondered if the real killer had been overlooked, but others remained convinced of Emma's guilt. After weeks of testimonies and arguments, the jury deliberated for 3 days. The tension was unbearable. Finally, the verdict was read: guilty. Emma's shoulders slumped, tears streaming down her face. Claire's heart broke in two. The judge sentenced Emma to life in prison with no possibility of parole. As she was led away, the courtroom was filled with a mixture of relief, sorrow, and confusion. Outside, Claire vowed to find the truth. She believed that justice had not been served, and that somewhere, hidden beneath the lies and shadows, the real story was, waiting to be uncovered. Years slipped by like shadows passing over a forgotten painting. Emma Whitman's name faded from the headlines, replaced by newer scandals and tragedies. But for Claire, every day was a prison without bars, a torment of guilt and unanswered questions. How could she live knowing her sister was locked behind cold iron bars for a crime she didn't commit? One crisp autumn afternoon, Claire returned to the Whitman family home, now silent and dust-covered. Their parents had passed away, leaving the house abandoned except for forgotten memories and relics of a life once shared. The walls seemed to whisper secrets, shadows stretching longer in the dim light of the empty rooms. Claire's fingers trembled as she sifted through boxes of old photographs, childhood toys, and forgotten letters. Each item was a thread, weaving the tapestry of a happier time before that terrible night. Then, in the attic, something caught her eye. A small, worn, leather-bound book tucked behind a loose panel in the floorboards. The cover was cracked and faded, the edges frayed from years of neglect. Her heart quickened. Carefully, she pulled the diary out and wiped the dust from its surface. The initials CW were faintly embossed on the front, unmistakably Claire's. A flood of memories washed over her. Secrets kept, thoughts never spoken aloud. Claire opened the diary to the first page and recognized her own handwriting, uneven and hurried, as if written in the dead of night. As she flipped through the pages, the diary revealed a side of her past she had long buried. It spoke of jealousy and bitterness, feelings she had never dared to admit even to herself. Most shockingly, it detailed a series of confrontations between her and Sarah Blake, the same Sarah who had been found dead. Page after page recounted secret arguments, whispered threats, and moments where emotions had boiled over. Claire's words painted a picture of a rivalry far darker than anyone had imagined. She confessed to hiding resentments fueled by envy and fear of being overshadowed by Sarah's friendship with Emma. One entry chilled Claire to her core. "I never meant for it to go this far. I only wanted to scare her, to make her see that I wasn't the forgotten twin. But last night, it got out of control. I can't believe what I did." Her breath caught in her throat. Could this be a confession? Was she admitting to the crime that had destroyed her family? Trembling, Claire knew she had to act. She contacted Emma's lawyer and handed over the diary, praying that this hidden truth could finally set her sister free. The diary was more than a collection of words. It was a key to unlocking a mystery buried beneath layers of lies and deceit. For Claire, it was a chance at redemption. For Emma, it was hope for justice. As the diary made its way through the legal system, whispers began to spread once again through Maplewood. A new chapter was about to unfold, one where the past could no longer be ignored. Claire stood at the window, watching the leaves fall like fragments of their shattered lives. The truth was out there, waiting, and this time, no one could stop it from coming to light. As the trial for Emma's retrial began, the prosecutor's confident demeanor wavered. This new evidence threatened to upend everything. The diary revealed secrets no one had known. Behind the polished surface of the Whitman family's public image lurked a dark, tangled web of jealousy, manipulation, and hidden hatred. Claire's writings spoke openly about her simmering rivalry with Sarah Blake, one born of envy and fear. Sarah had been the center of attention, a vibrant force in Claire's otherwise shadowed existence. Her friendship with Emma, the twin Claire believed was her mirror and equal, only fueled her resentment. In one entry, Claire described a confrontation on the night of Sarah's death. "We argued in the garden. She laughed at me, said I was always the forgotten twin." I felt my blood boil. I grabbed the scarf from her neck in anger. It was meant to scare her, to silence her words, but I never meant to hurt her. The defense attorney argued that the diary was a confession, a truth hidden in plain sight. Witnesses were called who came forward with new statements. A gardener, previously too afraid to speak, recounted hearing raised voices that night, not from Emma, but from someone else. Neighbors admitted to glimpsing Claire near Sarah's home, contradicting earlier assumptions. Claire herself took the stand, her face pale but resolute. "I wrote those words," she said, voice barely above, a whisper. "I was angry, confused, but I never told the truth because I was afraid of what it would mean for my family. For Emma, I'm ready to face what I've done." The jury listened, rapt and stunned. Slowly, the tide began to turn. It became clear that the original investigation had been clouded by assumptions and bias. Emma had been the easy target, the twin with a quieter, less assertive personality. Claire, with her charm and ability to manipulate, had escaped suspicion. But the diary was undeniable. The handwriting, the raw emotion, it painted a picture of guilt no forensic report could deny. After long deliberations, the judge ruled in favor of a full acquittal for Emma, who was released immediately. Yet the victory was bittersweet. Claire's admission tore the family apart. She faced charges not just of murder, but of betrayal and deceit. The hidden truth had finally surfaced, but at a devastating cost. Outside the courtroom, Emma embraced freedom with tears streaming down her face. But the scars of betrayal and years lost behind bars could not be erased. Maplewood's quiet streets would never be the same. The sun dipped low over Maplewood, casting long shadows across the quiet streets, a town forever changed by secrets, lies, and shattered trust. For Emma, Whitman freedom was bittersweet, like tasting air after years trapped underground. The heavy weight of injustice had been lifted, but the scars remained etched deep into her soul. The moment Emma stepped out of the courthouse, the world felt surreal. Reporters shouted questions, flashing cameras blinded her, and a crowd gathered. Some cheering, others silent in disbelief. She barely noticed it all. Instead, her eyes sought one face, Claire's. But Claire was nowhere to be seen. Behind the headlines and courtroom drama lay a family torn apart. Claire had disappeared, swallowed by the weight of guilt and shame. The woman who had once been Emma's closest mirror was now a stranger, her actions unraveling everything they had shared. Emma's life was no longer the intertwined existence of twins. It was a journey of rediscovery, a slow rebuilding of a fractured identity. She moved into a small apartment downtown, surrounded by a few loyal friends who never doubted her innocence. Every morning she woke to the quiet hum of the city, a reminder that life goes on, even after tragedy. Yet, the shadows of the past lingered. Therapy sessions helped her face the trauma, the betrayal, the years lost, the stigma. She grappled with anger and forgiveness, wrestling with questions that might never have answers. What drove Claire to silence the truth for so long? How had their bond, once so strong, become so poisoned? Meanwhile, Claire faced the consequences of her confession. The town that had once admired her now whispered harsh judgments. She was charged with second-degree murder and sentenced to prison, a fall from grace as steep as it was tragic. In the quiet moments, Claire wrote letters, unsent, messages filled with remorse and regret. She wished for a chance to turn back time, to undo the night that shattered their lives. Emma, too, found solace in unexpected places. She volunteered with local victims groups, channeling her pain into helping others find hope amid loss. Slowly, she carved a new path, one defined not by her past, but by the strength to move forward. One evening, standing on her apartment balcony, Emma watched the city lights flicker like stars. The diary, the key that unlocked the truth, had changed everything. It was proof that even in darkness, light could break through. But the story of the Whitman twins remained a haunting reminder. Sometimes, the greatest betrayals come from those closest to us, and sometimes the hardest battles are the ones fought within.